Right, welcome to this Tactics of Showcase video, and that's for the Imperial Knight, and specifically it's the Imperial Knight that you get with the Adeptus Mechanicus. So I will be referring to this codex here. No Imperial Knights will be having their own codex, no doubt, off in the future, but I use my Knight in with my Adeptus Mechanicus army, and there's some rules in there that are quite unique for taking a Knight mixed in with these guys. So that's where I'll be doing the rules and so on from. So in this video we'll showcase the model, so show you my Imperial Knight all painted up and how I put it together, and talk a bit about the model there, and then we'll look at the unit configuration, tactics, points costs and so on, and then potentially roll up some dice as well, just to give you an idea of how different things work for this model. It's quite a big one. This is one of the major units here on the channel, really. It's one of the big units that I have, and it features here in my AdMech force. So take a look at the model here, see if we can get it on camera. Here he is. He's been in quite a few battle reports so far. So I got him back in 7th edition, and then now he's transitioned over into 8th, but I'll just stay zoomed out just so you can get an idea of how the whole model looks. So there he is. Now he's magnetised. I'll cover that in just a moment. I'm just going to show you the whole model. Let's swing him around. So I put off painting one up for a long time because it's such a big model, but always knew I wanted one because it's such a, once you've got it painted up, it's such an achievement to have one of these things. So painted up red, I copied the colour scheme from the AdMech book. They show you different options, different characters, and named knights. And so Graven Ferris Maximus, this one here, although I've changed the armament round for him. I used to have the Avenger Gatling cannon here, but I've changed it recently to the thermal cannon. I have done a painting tutorial for this model because of the sheer scale of this thing. It's an in-depth painting tutorial. It's over on the Plus channel. Details in the description below for where to go to for that. But I'll show you from start to finish. It is a long video, but it shows you right from the very start all the way through to the finished model, and it is actually this model here that I paint. So if you like the look that's been achieved here and you want to achieve the same results, which you will get if you follow the tutorial along, then I'll show you how to do that in that video. And then I also cover things like the basing. I cover as well things like transfers, which can be very tricky, little tips and tricks with those, the weathering, chipping and so on. I even show you how to put the blood and gore on the chainsaw there as well, that kind of effects and so on, all covered in that tutorial. One of the keys to painting off a bit quicker was a lot of metal, so I sprayed him silver. I'll talk about that in the video, all the way around, and then the washes go on, and so there's a lot of areas which didn't really have to paint too much. Once the silver and the washes are gone on, that was pretty much it, especially around the back where there's not going to be as much attention because there's a lot of silver areas and just some key points picked out. It looks good, but it also saves tons and tons of time. It's more effort on areas like this, but it's worth doing, I think, just to get that look. These do look very cool. Then the basing tutorial is on the regular channel here. If you like the look of how this has come out, look up the urban basing tutorial. It's in the tutorial section, and I'll zoom in here so you can see the effect. So that's the kind of results I got with this one. So in that tutorial I show you how to do all the sand and so on, adding these bits in, and these skulls and these doors, and then all of the chipping effect and so on with those. I really wanted to add in a nice lot of detail to this base. It was worth it for this knight. Just there. I did actually put a few bits of sprue underneath him, so you can see he's actually lifted up just to make it a little bit taller than other knights perhaps that he comes up against. But check out, that's on this channel here, so you can check out the tutorial for the basing in that video. So yeah, he is magnetised. This moves like this, how it comes in the kit, and turns like how it comes in the kit as well. Just didn't glue it, fix it in place, so that's normal. And then here as well, backwards and forwards, that's all how it comes in the kit. Those parts aren't magnetised. The bits that I did magnetise was the rocket pod on top. That's just a magnet here on top and a magnet there, a nice flat one. So that just goes on there. I can swap that out for something else or remove it just there, and it helps with storage as well. And then I magnetised the torso here as well, so filled in this hole here with the magnets just there, and then some nice strong magnets on top. It's like a dome here, so I cut it off flat and stuck the magnets on top, and that just links in there. Pretty strong, so if I'm moving them around the table, it's not going to come off. For magnets, I usually get mine from eBay. This is the best place for those. If you look up disc magnets, you should be able to find them in different sizes. I would advise you just buy a variety of different sizes and thicknesses, and then when you come to a miniature, you just fiddle around and figure out which works the best. The other part that I magnetised was actually the weapon here. So magnetised inside there, and so that just connects like so, and that means I can swap it in and out for another weapon system there, no problem at all. So that was I built the model magnetised. It was with this weapon configuration originally, and then I did actually build this magnetised, and then just left it in my bits box, and then since then I've put it back on like so. Actually, no, that's not true. That's not true actually. This was originally fixed like this arm, I'm just remembering now, and then it took a while, but very carefully had to cut in between here to break this off, and then it just shows that you can magnetise even after construction. This is after he's painted as well. Cut that away, and then magnets up inside here, and then constructed this from my bits box. Same magnets facing the right direction, so that I can then swap them in and out. But no, I just remember doing that. I mean, it just shows that you can magnetise even after you think maybe it's too late. So that's the configuration I've gone for, and I don't regret it. It seems to be working better, but we'll cover that in the rules. That's the thermal cannon there, and it seems to be working pretty good here. So that's the finished knight. Am I tempted to get a second one? The answer is yes. I might get a second one day. You never know, you could see a pure knight army on the channel, especially with the new sort of scout knights that are coming out as well. Who knows, you may well see more of these make an appearance. James has one and plans to paint his up as well. So I'll just move that out of the way. I would recommend a knight, especially if you've been collecting 40k for a while and you want some kind of iconic achievement sort of miniature, something big and something you can stand back and say, yes, I've painted that. The Imperial Knight fits that exactly. And it's so open now to different people to use. You can go for the different Space Marine chapters. I've seen fantastic conversions for Space Wolves, knights painted up with that theme. You've got all the Traitor Guard, Chaos conversions you can do. So the knight really is something you can use for a whole host of different armies and factions. So the rules then. Is he any good is the question. Mixed opinions about the knight. A lot of people write them off now and say that they're no good in 8th edition. I would disagree. I think they are good. The games that I've used him in, they're hard to bring down. I think they are hard to bring down, and a very good bullet magnet to distract your opponent. Often the opponent will potentially panic when he sees one, or knows it's something that has to be destroyed, so you find a lot of firepower is directed against the knight, and so it may well be a loss when it does go down, which does take a fair bit of effort to destroy it, but it ends up protecting a lot of your army whilst your opponent's trying to deal with the knight. And then the other thing is, if he doesn't kill it, he's then got to go on to the second turn of shooting to try and bring it down, so you end up absorbing tons of the opponent's firepower just to bring the knight down. One key element to protect the knight, we'll cover that here. We'll check out Knight Errant. So 23 power level for him, and then he starts off at 320 points. They all do. Errant, Gallant, Paladin or Warden all start off at 320 points, and the Crusader as well. Just the weapons that you add on top starts to build up on the points cost. So he is in a damage bracket. He's got 24 wounds, and so between 13 and 24 wounds, his movement 12, so he is nice and quick around the table. Weapon skill and ballistic skill 3+, pretty standard. Then between 7 and 12 drops to a 9-inch move, which is still quick enough. 4 up weapon skill and ballistic skill, which is still half reliable, which is okay. And then when he's really in trouble, down to just a quarter of his wounds remaining, 1 to 6. It goes to a 6-inch move, which is can still move around. Weapon skill and ballistic skill 5+. you've got to half kill it before you hit a bracket. It's 12 wounds you need to knock off this thing. So, Knight Errant. Low stats, and then strength 8, toughness 8, and that's one of the big reasons why it's well protected. Toughness 8 is a massive difference in 8th edition. You know, bolters firing at you, it's going to be 6s to wound instead of 5s. So for massed infantry firepower coming in against your knight, it's going to be harder for them to pick off wounds because it's more of a struggle to wound a toughness 8. So, you know, it's a massive difference. It really is big. You know, like a Imperial, like a Lehman Russ battle cannon, instead of being 3s to wound like on a regular vehicle, it's 4s to wound. It does make a big difference. You know, all the way up to strength 7 weapons are going to be needing 5s to wound, so it's good. 24 wounds, which is a lot. 4 attacks, which is quite low. It's not too low, but 4 attacks you do struggle, especially if you're using the Reaper Chainsaw. There's only 4 chances to get a hit, and it starts to tell when you get down onto your damage brackets of 4+ and 5+. Leadership 9 and a free up save. So you've got to be aware, free up save, if wounds do start coming through from bolters and so on, you know, there's 1/3 of a chance you're going to start failing them. It's a little bit humiliating when, you know, las guns and bolters are knocking off wounds on your knight. So be aware of it's a free up save. So the Knight Errant comes with a Reaper Chainsword, a thermal cannon, this is the configuration that I have, a heavy stubber and titanic feet. So the stubber there is range 36, heavy 3, strength 4, just the usual rules for that. It's alright for picking up wounds. I've swapped it out for a melter gun, just for a little bit of anti-tank ability. If you get to within that 12-inch range, you've got a shot that could bypass most armour on a vehicle and then dish out a nasty bit of damage as well. So I go for the melter gun, which is just here, range 12, assault 1. Strength 8, -4 and d6, and it's 2d6, choose the best if you're within 6 inches. It's a nasty weapon. It's well worth putting it on the knight. It costs 17 points. I really do think it's worth it. I think the philosophy I've gone for these is if you've paid out the points for the body, for the knight, it's worth paying out the points to add as many weapons, as many decent weapons as you can. You may as well make the most of what you've paid out for. Nothing worse than if you've paid out for a big lumbering Imperial Knight and then its shooting's pretty mediocre. You want it to have as much firepower as possible. I think it's well worth it. So the thermal cannon will come to next. Now I swapped this out. First of all, I took the Avenger Gatling cannon, which I'll go to the Knight Warden for this one. Range 36, I'll cover the tactica behind this as well. Range 36, heavy 12, that's the 12 shots. That was initially what impressed me. Strength 6, -2 on the AP and 2 damage. It sounds really good, but, and again, this played out during games. You got your 12 shots, you roll your dice. On average, you got yourself 8 hits. Say you're firing a unit of Space Marines, so you've hit 8 Space Marines. You then roll to wound. Strength 6, toughness 4 is 3s to wound, so you take off another few hits, maybe get 5 wounds come through. It's only AP -2, so your opponent drops from a 3 up save to a 5 up save, then say he saves a couple more, so you're looking at about 3 casualties. And I thought, well, you're paying out 500 points for a knight just to kill 3 Space Marines a turn. And so, it just didn't work. I ended up lacking anti-tank, ended up firing this weapon at vehicles, and then you start firing at vehicles, you're at 8 hits, strength 6, toughness 7, you're on 5s to wounds, all of a sudden 2 or 3 wounds come through, your opponent saves a couple, and you're dishing out 2 wounds to a vehicle on average in a turn. So it was no good. Really struggling with it. So maybe you disagree, and again, this is the video where you can leave your own feedback and comments and opinions on. I know there's going to be discussion on the different weapons loadouts. But the Avenger Gatling cannon was just no good. And if you look it up here, it's 95 points. It's very expensive for something that doesn't do very much. So maybe they'll fix that with new codex, I don't know, but I'm not impressed with the Avenger Gatling cannon at all. You know, it's a weapon that's configured to firing at medium infantry, light infantry. Why try and take out that kind of target with a knight? You want the knight to take out something heavier. So with that in mind, I switched over to the thermal cannon. And would you believe the thermal cannon is 76 points, so it's significantly cheaper than the Avenger Gatling cannon. So the thermal cannon, it's range 36. Range isn't too much of a problem, because remember you've got 12-inch moves. It's 36 and then plus your 12-inch move. You can pretty much reach anyone on the table that you want with one of these things. It's heavy D6. That was the issue that put me off for a while. You could roll 1, but as a subscriber said, you could equally roll a 6, and you could all of a sudden have a fistful of dice. Fire a very nasty weapon. And there's been times in games where I've rolled up and I've got a 5 or a 6 for shots, and all of a sudden 3 or 4 hits have come through and then the target's in massive trouble. And I have one-shotted a vehicle or 2 with this already using the thermal cannon, which is a good sign. So heavy D6, on average 3 or 4 shots, which I think is really good. Strength 9, very significant. Land Raiders, other knights, Wraith Knights, you're on freeze to wound, massive difference. Between strength 8 and strength 9, it's a big help to have that. It's AP -4, so your average vehicle is going to get no save at all, so that frustrating times when your opponent rolls a 5 or a 6, depending on what the vehicle is, and then blocks the damage. It's rarely going to happen with that -4, so that's very good indeed. And it's D6 damage, which can become very nasty if you suddenly get 2 or 3 penetrating hits. 2 or 3 D6 damage is horrific. And if you're within half the range, which in this case is 18 inches, then you roll 2 dice for damage and choose the best. And all of a sudden, that makes that a very nasty weapon indeed. And it is nasty. Some games I've rolled 1 for a shot and then missed, and it's failed. Other times it's got a horrific hit and done terrible damage, if not destroying the target. So I'm a big fan of the thermal cannon. Tried and tested in a few games, and it has done very well indeed. Next one then is the Reaper Chainsword. You do have to pay for that, I believe. Yeah, it's 30 points. It's not too expensive, but 30 points you have to pay. Now, bit of a conundrum this one. It's a melee weapon. It's +4 strength, so you go from strength 8 to strength 12, which there's one problem with it there. It's not usually going to be double the toughness of a vehicle it goes against. You're rarely going to be on 2s to wound with that, unless it's something that's toughness 6, like some of the Harlequin skimmers and so on. But there's not much around there that's toughness 6. A Dark Elder, some of their transports and so on are toughness 6 as well. So ×2 strength would have been better to make it strength 16, but they've only made it strength 4. It's AP -3, which I thought it would have been worse as well. So there's going to be times where your opponent's going to roll a 6 to save, a 5 to save, and block that from coming through. The big bonus for it though is 6 damage. The other thing I struggle with the Reaper Chainsword is, yes, that stat line is pretty good, but you only get 4 attacks. There's no way in this book to increase your number of attacks, and so it's just going to be 4 attacks. So there'll be times when you plunge into a vehicle, and this has happened a number of times. You're going to use the Reaper Chainsword, you roll your 4 dice, and you get 1 hit or 2 hits. It's like, oh, I'm not gonna struggle here. And then freeze to wound as well. So say on average you're on 4 dice, one of them misses, then you roll 3 dice, freeze to wound, another one's going to fail to wound. Then on a decent to average score, you're going to get 2 get through. 1 or 2 really. It's going to be 1 or 2. And then your opponent's going to have, usually with a vehicle, some kind of chance to block that, and then and only then, if you get through, does the 6 damage appear. So sometimes you kill a vehicle outright if you get your 2 hits come through, but it's quite rare that happens. So not so sure on the Reaper Chainsword. So you could go for this one, a Thunderstrike Gauntlet. I've not tried this one out. It's 35 points, only 5 points more. With this one, it is ×2 strength, so be on 2s to wound on most targets, because you're going to strength 16. It is -4, so there's a big improvement there, and it's 6 damage. But when you attack this weapon, it's -1 from the hit roll. That's not helpful for a model that's only got 4 attacks. If a vehicle or monster is slain by this weapon, pick an enemy unit within 9 of the bear and roll d6. On 4+, the unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. It's quite tame. You know, it's got to be within a short range, 9 inches. Then you've got half a chance it doesn't work, and then it's only d3 mortal wounds. It's not too much to be afraid of. The big worry about that is the -2 hit, especially if you start taking damage. You know, you take half your wounds, and all of a sudden you go from a 4 up to hit with 4 attacks and even 5 up. So that puts me off the Thunderstrike Gauntlet. But then you have this here, Titanic Feet. And this is another reason to have doubts about taking a melee weapon for these. Is the feet here. The feet are pretty good. You go strength for the user, which is strength 8. It's AP -2 and it's D3 damage. But then you make 3 hit rolls for each attack made for this weapon instead of 1. So 4 attacks becomes 12 attacks here with Titanic Feet. So you're going to get like 8 or 9 hits. With that coming at strength 8 -2 and D3 damage, that's going to mash through a lot of targets. Very helpful against infantry, Primaris sort of marines, Terminators. Very helpful indeed. Characters, other monsters and vehicles, because that D3 damage. You know, there's a bit of ability to get more than 1 wound with the D3, but you're also spreading your attacks out if you're trying to deal with multiple, like infantry targets and hordes and so on. So I like the Titanic Feet. I've used that a number of times, and even prefer that, I reckon. A lot of the times, I prefer that over the Reaper Chainsaw. I'll say it now, I think my ideal configuration is firepower. I'll say my ideal configuration, and then you can leave your comments on it. So the ideal combination for me would be, there's not a picture of them here. I would go for, we'll cover these other weapons in just a moment. So the knight I would go for would have the melter gun. I'd use the Titanic Feet for melee. I'd take the thermal cannon and also the repeater battle cannon. So, and then also on top the Storm Spear rocket pod. So absolute blistering array of firepower and the ability in close combat as well. That's what I would go for. So, but that depends. We'll see if that configuration is even possible. I think it is. Okay, so anyway, carrying on with the Errant here, so Titanic Feet. So you can take items, we'll cover the carapace weapons next. There's 3 of them. Right, it's Twin Icarus autocannon, which is alright. Let's have a look at it here. It's 25 points, which is quite cheap actually, it's not too bad. I think you're going to get 4 shots of this. Yeah. Twin Icarus autocannon. Yeah, it's here. Range 48. It's an excellent range. Heavy 4, and then strength 7. -1, 2 damage. Add 1 to hit rolls from this weapon against targets that can fly, and then -1 from other shots. That's what sort of put me off. I want the firepower to be modified, and so I've got other. I mean, it maybe depends on the army you're building, but my Skitarii I've got Honor Guard Dream Crawls to deal with flyers, so I didn't really need any extra anti-aircraft with that. So that's why I didn't go for the Twin Icarus autocannons. But maybe you'd be lacking that in your army, so it'd be well worth adding that. I would highly recommend the carapace weapons. It's worth adding another weapon system that you can fire from that model, and relatively cheap as well. Storm Spear rocket pod is next. This is the one that I have. This is I think about 40 points. 45. It's range 48, excellent range. Heavy 3, which I really like. You guarantee those 3 shots every time. Strength 8, -2, so your opponent is going to save a few, but if those shots get through, it's D6 damage. So the weapon system has potential to one-shot kill the vehicle. So I really rate it, and it's helped out a number of times. Very, very good. So that's what I go for with that. And then the other one is an Iron Storm missile pod. Iron Storm missile pod is very cheap. If you're looking for, maybe you're stuck for points, this one's only 16 points. And it's range 72. Yeah, it's a good one. Range 72, heavy D6, it is variable. It's strength 5, -1 and 2 damage. And you can target units that are not visible to the bearer. So maybe looking for a bit of cheap firepower to pick on infantry targets, then that one's pretty good, the Iron Storm missile pod. But my preference is paying out for the Storm Spear rocket pod, just to add to your anti-tank ability. So that's that covered. And I used to think, oh, save points the night you've already spent out for it is too many points, and then I've then changed position and says no, pay out the points, give yourself the maximum firepower that you can. It's well worth it because you've already paid out the points for the model, and you may as well just max it out to its full capability. This model may replace its Reaper Chainsaw with Thunderstrike Gauntlet, we've covered that, and you may replace the heavy stuff with Melter Gun. I take the Melter Gun again for a bit of anti-tank. See, and again, it's that philosophy. I can't see the point of taking a massive brute like this and then just giving him anti-infantry weapons when you've got other units in your army that can do that. I want to equip him to deal with the heavier targets that the opponent has, either with firepower or in combat. But a walking gun platform, tough, is the way to go, I think, with these, and to max out with deadly anti-tank firepower. So there's some more rules here. This model has a 5+ invuln save against shooting attacks. That is very, very helpful for keeping him alive. The amount of times I've been hit by a las cannon, I roll a 5 up to block it, is very, very helpful indeed. And maybe get hit by a devastator squad, again, which has happened to me. 4 wounds come through. Usually, you're going to be on 60s to try and block it with your armour. That invuln save helps out. You can block 1 or 2 of them, and it just really knocks the damage that comes through against your knight. So that's very helpful indeed. That can be enhanced here with this book, which we'll cover a bit later on. We'll cover a few stratagems in this video as well. Usual rules for, well, not usual rules. If it explodes, it can be horrific. It's 2d6 range and it's d6 mortal wounds, so be aware of that. That's quite rare that it happens. Great rules here as well. Super Heavy Walker. This is excellent rules here. This model can fall back in the movement phase and still shoot and charge in the same turn. That makes him very, very flexible indeed. That makes him superior to other vehicles. Other vehicles pull out of combat, can't shoot, can't charge. He just does what he wants. So he can't be pinned down by hordes and so on. When this model falls back, it can move over enemy infantry models. So you can actually stride over infantry if you're on if you're heading towards something. That it must end its move more than an inch from enemy units. In addition, this model can move and fire heavy weapons without suffering any penalties to the hit rolls. Another fantastic rule. And then finally, this model only gains a bonus to its save for cover if you're over half obscured, which is just the usual for that. So I rate the knight. I think the rules for it are brilliant. I really do. Maybe some people get disheartened. You take a knight, perhaps you've got it in your army, you get hit by some las cannons early on, you fail a couple of invuln saves, and all of a sudden it's half dead, and you think, oh, what's the point in taking the knight? It's been half killed. And I think that's what's put some people off. But the games I've played, often it's been a big effort for the opponent to try and bring this thing down, and it's helped preserve the rest of my army. Something so tough, just absorbing so much firepower, has really helped to protect the rest of my army. So, you know, and even if you are wandering around the board with 1 wound left, you're still firing all those weapon systems at 5s to hit, and you can still charge into stuff at 5s to hit. And again, there are some stratagems that can really help out with that as well. So if maybe you're an AdMech player watching this, which is the AdMech theme that we're doing at the moment for the tactics videos, I would highly recommend one of these. There's a fantastic model, the rules for it are great, and there's some great stratagems there to help as well. So that's that one. The Paladin then, I'll cover the rapid fire battle cannon. Oh, it is fantastic. It is a really good weapon, but it is expensive. It's 100 points. So if I dropped the Reaper Chainsword for 30, I'd have to pay an extra 70 points to take the rapid fire battle cannon. But look at it. It's range 72. Heavy 2d6. You're looking at 7 or 8 shots a turn on average. Strength 8. You're arguably wounding most vehicles on a 3+. It's AP -2. It's going to knock enough of the armour that the opponent's going to need a good roll to block it. And it's D3 damage at times. Excellent against vehicles, monsters, characters, heavy infantry, light infantry, the whole lot. It's an all-round general weapon and it is very, very good indeed. It looks the part as well. So now, nothing else there to cover. No, so let's just mention that about the Paladin. And then the Knight Warden here, Avenger, Gatling Cannon, Heavy Stubber, Heavy Flame, Titanic Feet. Let's see what you can go for here. Carapace weapons, okay, yeah. Knight Gallant here. That's the combat ability one, yeah. And the last one, the Knight Crusader. Let's have a look. Yeah, this is the one I think where you can swap things out. Let's have a look here. So the Crusader comes with the Avenger Gatling Cannon and then the Thermal Cannon on the other arm. And then your options, you may replace the Thermal Cannon with Rapid Fire Battle Cannon. Oh no, you can't. Oh, my favourite combination, you can't do it, I think. But you have to swap the Thermal Cannon with Rapid Fire Battle Cannon. Oh no. So in that case, I'd probably stick with what I've got. Yep. No, I'd probably just stick with what I got. Yeah, that's the way I play it, I think. So the current configuration that I have, I think, is what I would go for. So that's the rules then. Some general tactics then. If you watch some of the battle reports, there's more coming out with the Knight on both of the channels. But I usually play with it quite boldly. So you might see it deployed at the front of the army, in the middle of the deployment map. I know it's tough enough. It's nowhere really to hide. And so usually quite bold with the Imperial Knight. Usually play quite aggressively with it. It's striding out 12 inches, you know, because it's got that ability for shooting. And for combat, I've got no worries about being bogged down in combat. I can just walk out and still fire and charge. So that's a very, very versatile. Whereas with other vehicles, you might have to be more cautious, not wanting to get charged and so on. This thing doesn't care. And so you've got tremendous liberty with it to do what you want. And that's how I think Knights, that's the whole theme of them, is they go where they want and nothing can stop them. So that's the idea, I think, for those. So often you'll see that happening. Then with my AdMech, sometimes I'll play defensively, sometimes I'll try and play quite clever. If the opponent's got certain ranged weapons that are nasty, I'll back out well out of range and stay alive, because I also found that the longer you keep this alive, this survives through to the last few turns of the game. Usually the opponent's in big trouble. So the key then is not to lose it in the early stages of the game. So limit the damage by staying out of range if you need to. It's just that decision you've got to make, how much you can hide from. In some games as well, the opponent's got a whole line set up to fire at it. Sometimes I'll swing around behind a piece of terrain and try and block off some of the firepower the opponent has and let other units absorb some of the damage. Because yes, it can absorb an entire army's firepower, but it's not ideal. And sometimes I'm more bold with it because I have the ability to repair it as well when I use it from here. So that leads me on to a tactic then. A combination I do. I'll talk about this in the AdMech army video. So models like Tech Priest Engine Seer, Belisarius Call, Tech Priest Dominus, they all have the ability to repair. Master of Machines, within 3 inches it's D3 wounds, but for Adeptus Mechanicus, which is him, it's only 1 wound. So you can restore a wound a turn on that, which isn't very significant. But then the trick that I've done with here, I'll just show you all the tactics here, just to share some of the ideas you can go for. The trick that I've done for him is I've taken Necro Mechanic on my Warlord, and then each time Warlord uses an ability to repair a friendly model, that model regains an additional wound. So all of a sudden 1 wound becomes 2 wounds. And there's nothing more disheartening for your opponent than when you start repairing a knight on the board, because they think all that effort they've made to knock off those wounds, and then you start putting them back on again. It's really annoying. There's another trick that you can do here as well. From the stratagems, we'll cover it. There's a number of these actually for Adeptus Mechanicus, but there's one where you can repair again even if it's the same model. So I use a Tech Priest Dominus with Necro Mechanic. He restores 2 wounds, play the stratagem, and he restores another 2. So that's 4 wounds potentially you can restore on a knight, and that's very significant. It really helps. So just little tactics there specifically for Adeptus Mechanicus. They do go well together. Games Workshop have gelled them nicely together. That's how it should be. And the whole theme of the army I put together was to have Admech with the shrine of this knight that they're sworn to protect, and will give their lives in protecting this great unit. And then in return, the knight kicks everyone's butt as well, as he fights for the Skitarii. So it's like a symbiotic relationship going on, and it seems to work quite well. Yeah, so that's stratagems here. I'll go through the relevant ones here. So Tech Adept. Use a stratagem after Adeptus Mechanicus character from the army has used an ability to repair a friendly vehicle. The character can immediately attempt to use that ability again, and even to repair the same model. So that's that one there. There's a number here that are really helpful for the knight. There's this one, Benevolence of the Omnissiah. Use the stratagem when Adeptus Mechanicus vehicle or Questa Mechanicus, which is him, model from your army suffers a mortal wound. On a d6, it's a 5+, it ignores it, and then each wound thereafter as well for the rest of the phase. You suddenly find yourself taking a load of mortal wounds, maybe in a psychic phase for example, then you can activate that. It's cheap. Both of these ones are only 1 command point, which is really good. This one here is very good as well. Machine Spirit Resurgent. Use at the start of any turn, pick an Adeptus Mechanicus vehicle or Questa Mechanicus unit from your army. To the end of this turn, so it lasts the whole turn, use the top row of the model's damage table. Say you're on 1 wound remaining, all of a sudden you're on your top profile. That's only 1 command point. So vital, you know, if he's on a suicide mission, you know he's going to die next turn, but you want him to have a good round of firepower, then use that. And he can fire on his top level, you know, 3+ to hit and 3+ in combat and so on. It ends the moment the model is reduced to 0 wounds. So there's that one there. And then you can't detonate, that's only for Admech vehicles. And I think that's it. Oh, it's right. Oh, yeah, of course, famous one. Rotate Iron Shields, which is down here. Use the stratagem when an enemy unit targets a Questa Mechanicus unit from your army that has an invuln save. You can add 1 to the invuln save and throw to the end of the phase. So that one is very, very helpful. I mean, a 4+ invuln save, you know, you're effectively, other than mortal wounds, you're effectively halving the effectiveness of the opponent's firepower when he targets that. So yes, it's a fire magnet, it's going to attract a lot of firepower, so all of the heavy firepower comes in. You take Rotate Iron Shields, which is only 1 command point, and all of a sudden half the shots come through, so ignore them with the invuln save, no matter how powerful they are. So las cannons fires a team of las cannons at you. 4 las cannons, 3 of them hit, 2 of them wound, and then Rotate Iron Shields, you should block 1 of them, and therefore the damage is going to be like d6. So, you know, whereas name another vehicle that's got a 4+ invuln save. There's not much out there. I mean, most tanks don't have any invuln save at all. Usually it's just an armor save that's just reduced right down. So I do rate them. I think they're well protected. And yes, they're going to get shot at, but what do you expect when you take something that size? So that's the stratagems. I think that the use of stratagems from this book really does enhance these. You've got to know your stratagems to really get the best out of this model. I think it's deadly. The key is to give it effective firepower. I think it's the most important thing, and so I recommend the rocket pod, the Storm Spear rocket pod on top, taking the melter, which has helped, and then this thermal cannon I think is nasty. Either that or the repeater battle cannon, either of those two, but that is a cheaper option, 76 points compared to 100. And the Reaper Chainsword, I mean, what else can you take really? I'd choose that over the Gauntlet, so really that's the best configuration I think that there is at the moment. But maybe you disagree, so feel free to leave your comments. And then maybe you've got a lot of battlefield experience using the Imperial Knight, and specifically we're thinking of 8th edition. If you've got experience with it and you've tried different loadouts and so on, and you know your own hints and tips, then by all means leave that in the comments section as well. So just by way of example, we've got a situation here. I'm currently working on these for my revamped Eldar army, some Wraithguard. We've been meaning to get them for a long time, but they're going to be part of the new revamped list. So will fire, and then see this loadout's pretty. This is a prime target here, both for shooting and for combat. So say you've moved up. This is a threat to your AdMech army. If you don't take these out, your infantry is struggling. There's loads of wounds on these. They're very tough. And all of a sudden he strides in. It's going to cause trouble. So you've got the melter gun, which can help if it hits, which it has. 3+ for a wound. Yep, and then -4, and it's a straight D6, which is 4, so you kill one. That's the value of the melter gun. Paid for itself and more straight away. It's worth just loading out all of this firepower. The rocket system on top, still must be a rocket pod. They've all hit. 3s to wound, all wounded. 5 up save, no. First one D6, dead, dead, and 2 wounds. And then the thermal cannon, which is hit and miss, but if you roll well, I've rolled a 3 here just off screen. 3s for hits, and there's a miss. 3s for wounds, 2 wounds, -4, so, and it's within a range, that's just going to be an auto kill, and then it's 2d6, choose the best. 3, perfect, so wipe out. Now that's 200 points dealt with there, and that's finished off only because of the maxed out firepower in there. Thermal cannon, melter helping, and the rocket pod on top. That's a fantastic round of shooting. Very, very good indeed. Combat as well. Pretty good. So we'll say that we charge in. We'll do Overwatch here with these. Needing 6s. I knew I'd get some 6s here. 666. We'll keep going here. Let's say that's a 2. 2 wounds come through. Yeah, strength 10. Yeah. 5 up invuln save. Pass 1. That's illustrating exactly what I was talking about earlier on. The invuln save. So helpful. And then D6 damage. 3. So taking 3 wounds. Not really going to affect this thing. So say we charge in. For this kind of target, you could go Reaper Chainsword and try and bring down. You may bring down 2. I go for the feet in this scenario here. So charging in this situation, I go for the feet. Could go for Reaper Chainsword. Maybe. I mean, once you get those wounds, you've virtually killed them. It's difficult, really. We'll do one of each, to be fair. Right, so Reaper Chainsword. The danger is missing, but that's a good roll. 3s to wound. They've all wounded. And then 6s to try and block these. Yeah, there's 2 6s, and that's the danger. One's got through, so you kill one. Then the feet, which I think just building up all those D3 damage results is a good idea. Looking for hits here. So 3s for wounds. Yeah, not so effective. Maybe the Reaper Chainsword's better. 5s to save. There's a save, so it's 2d3 damage. Probably gonna get the same result here. 3 and then a wound, so you'd kill either one of those and one on a bit. So it's roughly the same kind of impact. Now, the good thing about him, that was a pretty poor round. Usually does better in combat. The great thing about him, at any point he wishes to, he can just pull back at full move, walk over the top 12 inches, just carry on with what he's planning to do. And the very, very handy thing about it, you saw how effective his firepower was. The amount of times I've done this is just pull out of combat, fire everything into your target, and then just charge back in again. And that's a very powerful move indeed. Or pull out of combat and then just fire at some other target that's a priority. Maybe there's a target that's over here somewhere, so you can move across, fire at your target, and then charge back into combat again. So that ability to do that without any worry about having to pull out of combat and being restricted with your firepower, it's so much more versatile than a regular vehicle. It means you're able to pull out some very dynamic moves. So that Imperial Knight is a great resource to have in your army. It really is. And then there's a number of enhancements and stratagems and so on that you can take. And then combining that with my Tech Priest Dominus, healing the wounds, can really add to the endurance of this thing. I'm fully convinced if you reach the latter stages of a game and this thing's still in good health, then you're usually lined up to achieve victory. And a number of battle reports, this has guided my army to victory a number of times. So that's the tactic and showcase here for the Imperial Knight. Mine's to go with my AdMech army. So this is the focal point of the force, and then the rest of the army just flows around this thing, protecting it and working together as a team, and it makes for a nice dynamic to my AdMech army, and I think it just looks great. So you can check out the complete army video, and then I discuss this and the tactics and all the other units in my AdMech army. If you like the paint job on this and you want to copy it step by step, then check out the Plus channel. You'll be able to see the in-depth painting tutorial for this unit over on the Plus channel as well, and then battle reports here on this channel, and then on the Plus channel as well, exclusive battle reports featuring this thing. And the great thing about Imperial Knights as well is that yes, I use it in my AdMech army, but also send it out to join other alliances as well. Sometimes I team it up with my Red Scorpions and the Space Marines, sometimes with the Imperial Fists. So you know, Astrum and Tyrant, it's great to use with them. So it's a great model to paint up and then to lend out to different armies as well. So a big fan of these. I really think the model's fantastic. Very happy to see Games Workshop release big models for 40k. It used to be just tanks was sort of the biggest thing, and then now you've got these larger models, things like the Imperial Knight. It just adds a whole new spectrum to the game. I think it's been a massive improvement. But there it is. That's the showcase and Tactica video for the Imperial Knight. Share your own battlefield experience, your own tips and tactics, and then this video can be a real focal point for those that have Imperial Knights or looking to get them, and you can learn some great tactics from other experienced 40k players out there as well. There it is, that's the video. Keep a look out for more Tactica on the channel. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time.